All right, this is our Anth 200 group presentation, Reclaiming Indigenous Culture. This is, I'm Braden. Wade, Karis, and Miriam as well are here to join us. All right, introduction. The article that our group decided to analyze is titled A New Generation is Reviving Indigenous Tattooing, and it is written by Joshua Rathburn. The article discusses cultural meaning behind these Indigenous tattoos and traverses the history behind these Arctic and Northwest Coast tattooing practices. The author focuses on a few different individuals within the Inupiat community, as well as others involved with this topic. Next slide, please. The article focuses on numerous personal stories among a few of these Indigenous individuals involved with the Indigenous tattooing community. The article begins by discussing an Inupiat woman named Marjorie Kunak Tabo, who just recently graduated from the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. Tabo decided that she would get a traditional Inupiat-style tattoo for her face to commemorate this milestone. The tattoo is located on her chin in the style of 3 solid lines that descend downwards, sort of like the tattoo on the right. Tabo was wary about how people in her community would actually react to it. Once people took notice of it, it felt like a piece of their history. A baby even touched the tattoo and traced the pattern with its fingers. Since the Inupiat community names babies after the recently deceased, she felt as if it was some sort of ancestral acknowledgement. She felt as if this tattoo was a way of reclaiming her cultural identity. The next person is Lars Krutak, an anthropologist and research associate at the Museum of International Folklore in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Krutak has worked with the idea of Indigenous tattoos for many years. He has studied among the Yupik on Alaska's St. Lawrence Island, and he has also come to the conclusion that the residential schools and other government assimilation and conversion programs have nearly destroyed the art of Indigenous tattooing. Many of the people were reluctant to even discuss the tattoos in the first place as a result. Krutak also discovers that the tattoos served a therapeutic and medicinal purpose. Many of the puncture points of the needles coincided with acupuncture placements that we use today. Krutak also discovers that the tattoo served, this particularly helped with arthritis, is what he discovers, that many of those locations actually were on the joints because the Yupik believed that the joints were a weak point for evil spirits to penetrate the body and harm people, essentially. In addition, the ink would have been infused with charcoal in some cases, which is still used today to leach the body of toxins. The third and final person is a tattoo artist from the Tlingit community in Southeast Alaska and Northwest BC that goes by the one name Nahan. His testimony corroborates that of Krutak's. Nahan mentions how his clients are emotional and will even come to tears as part of the tattooing process, and not from the physical pain, but from the generational trauma and the sense of relief. He also states that the younger generation is the generation to be revitalizing this long lost art, or nearly lost art. The author ends by stating that thanks to these 3 people, the Indigenous tattoos are reemerging in the world today. Next slide, please. So the main points of this article are that these tattoos are it's a form of reclamation of Indigenous cultural identity. And these tattoos and their history illustrate how cultural suppression can be destructive and a catastrophic idea. This can leave an entire population with generational trauma, many of this due to residential school system, In addition, this tattooing has been appropriated and not even acknowledged about where its roots originated from. No one should ever suppress a culture based on the reason that it is different. These cultural practices can show the world many things and offer people wider perspectives on life. For instance, these practices have actual medical and health benefits to people. Could this cultural practice have changed how Western medicine is practiced if it wasn't oppressed?
So now we move on to our scientific publications. Mine is by a man called Brian Barth from National Geographic, called Revealing New Pictures, Shine a New Light on Inuit Culture. And the article goes to state that residential schools across Canada and boarding schools for Indigenous peoples in America violently erased a variety of Indigenous cultures, languages, and beliefs. Many Inuit and Indigenous youth have grown up not knowing their nation's history, language, culture, or way of life because of settler colonialism. They were afraid to express their respective cultures after that trauma. But now there is a resurgence of pride amongst Inuit and Indigenous youth. This article specifically highlights Inuit and Northwest Coast Indigenous youth reclaiming their cultures through traditional tattooing, song, art, and dance, along with using social media to express their pride and create awareness around Indigenous issues. They are using these outlets to tell their stories with their own voices.
My article was by Lars Krutak, and it studies Indigenous tattooing traditions across North America. Different forms of tattoo traditions occur all across North America and have been recorded and documented by many European settlers and anthropologists. In the northern United States and southern Canada, as well as the north, these tattoos often symbolized a person's accomplishments in war, what injuries they may have sustained, if they had children, and the animals with which a tribe or individual was associated. In some tribes, they would have a circular shape on their face for every person they scalped, and a cross for each injury they sustained. Next slide. I don't know why it's not going again.
Key Concept 1. Indigenous Media. Media is a technology that connects multiple people remotely to shared content. There is no universal way to consume media. Media consumption is bound to culture. Indigenous media is media produced by and for Indigenous communities. Media can be a tool for cultural expression and sharing knowledge. A debate among media anthropologists considers the question, do Western inventions endanger or replace Indigenous forms of storytelling, or do they empower new forms of cultural creativity and experimentation?
Another key concept we found from the textbook was that Western biomedical treatments are not the only treatments people receive for illnesses. For the Inuit, tattooing is seen as a way of healing and medicinal treatment. It is also used to show milestones and keep away evil spirits. In the cultures around the world, they too practice differentiating ethno-etiologies to help aid the ill. We must not view these different ethno-etiologies as something wrong, based on the fact that it does not match with Western biomedical treatments and research. In fact, the placebo effect for some of these different personalistic and naturalistic ethno-etiologies actually help the body heal faster.
The tattooing tradition in most communities in North America is often a rite of passage. A rite of passage is an activity or ritual that is undertaken in a community that signifies transition between stages of life. Tattoos were given when a child became an adult, as symbols of injuries or successes in war, having children. The first tattoos were usually related to the discovery of a person's Manitou. This is the animal that they associate with as a spiritual guardian. It was a significant transition in a person's life and would be recorded on their skin. It could often happen as early as age 10 in some groups in Canada.
Key Concepts Discussion Questions 1. How can we create more opportunities for non-Indigenous Canadians to learn more about Indigenous cultures and play a role in helping these communities reclaim their cultural activities such as traditional tattoos? Can anthropologists help research these Indigenous traditions, or does it make more sense for the Indigenous communities to have full control over how they want to involve non-Indigenous Canadians? 2. Our article talked about using social media to play a role in promoting these cultural activities that are being revived to spread awareness and interest. So what are the consequences of using social media, which is a technology created by our modern culture? And do you think it is a positive idea to use modern tools to promote the learning and reclaiming of traditional cultural activities?
All right, and I think that's the end of the presentation.